Hi, Chris. Thank you so much, and thank you to everybody that joined us today. At Mathematica and New Wave, we know you have a lot of things competing for your time, so thanks for taking an hour out to share with us so that we can tell you about Imersis. First thing I did was something wrong. Sorry about that. So let's go over the agenda. I have a couple more housekeeping items, and I want to do some introductions to the group for the panel who are assisting me today. I want to tell you what Imersis is. That's my primary goal for today's webinar, is to tell you what Imersis is. I want to tell you how it works. I want to tell you how easily it works. I want to tell you where it works. I want to tell you about some client experiences. I'm going to share with you the experience in New Jersey, and we have one of our clients on the panel with us, and Cherry, I'll introduce her in just a minute. She's going to tell you about the West Virginia experience. Then I'm going to do a live demonstration. We will be in a live system, and I've been around long enough doing webinars and meetings where you're in a live system and things can happen. And I always cringe when it happens, but it could. I don't think it will, but I just want you to know we will be in a live system. I want to tell you about the client support. As the client engagement lead for Imersis, client support is near and dear to me. After the demonstration, I'm going to talk about that. And then I'm going to tell you about procurement options, the very, very last part. Okay, so a few more housekeeping items. The data is real. We're in a demo environment. The data is real. The PII and the PHI have been masked. So we protect data. We believe in protecting data. So there's no chance you're seeing anything that's protected. As Chris said, and thank you, Chris, please submit your questions through the chat. Only you can see your question. Only you and the panel can see your question. Let me say that. And I've practiced this webinar 7,902 times, and then I've gotten the time down to between 44 and 47 minutes. So we do have some time for questions, but the panel have all agreed graciously to stay on the call with me until all the questions are answered. After the webinar, what can you expect? We'll send you the slides and we'll send you the recordings to all participants. We'll also send all the questions and all the responses to all the participants. Names will be removed, so no one will know who submitted what question. I want to keep that private so that people will feel free to ask any question. So let's get started. That's all the easy stuff, I think. I want to introduce this awesome panel. I'm Michelle Listug. I'm a Mathematica team member, and I'm the client engagement lead. Along with me are two colleagues from Mathematica, Erin Panzarella, who is the product owner. Before she became the product owner, she was part of the team from Mathematica that worked with CMS on the CMS dashboard and all that is T MSIS with CMS. And she truly is the SME of all SMEs and our product owner. Dan Vanderzee, he is another Mathematica colleague. He is our help desk manager, does a lot of interfacing with our clients. Particular important role is he's the first contact when we're getting a test file, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Another panelist is one of our partners from New Wave. Imersis is a product of New Wave and Mathematica. We're two different companies, but we collaborated on this product, and we truly are one team, and I love that about the relationship we have. Ingrid Forkolb has joined us. She is the team lead for the development team at New Wave. And finally, we have Cherry Whittlesberger. She is a project management advisor with Gamewell Technologies. I'm sure everybody on this call recognizes that name. Cherry supports the West Virginia and the U.S. Virgin Islands projects, and she's going to talk to you candidly, I hope, about the West Virginia experience shortly. And I just want to say thank you again to Cherry for agreeing to join us. I am going to stop my video at this point so that my machine response time is faster, but I am here and I am with you. Okay, here we go. What is Imersis? At the very basic level, Imersis is a software as a service that scores T MSIS data files. How do we do that? We do it the very same way that CMS does it, using the outcomes-based assessment framework. Currently, there are 975 measures, critical, high, and medium priority data quality measures in Imersis. And I say currently because every time CMS has a new release of measures, OBA measures, we also ingest those into Imersis. So that number ebbs and flows. As you all know, late last month, CMS did have a release. Our commitment to our client is to turn those around in 30 days. So next week, we'll be updating those changes that CMS made at the end of March into Imersis. One of the many beautiful things about Imersis is it delivers results within 24 hours of submission. So if our client, Cherry, and that team submitted a file today, tomorrow they would have the results of that submission. They would have the results and they would have very fine details that will help them to address data quality issues. Imersis also provides a sandbox for unlimited testing. I'm going to show you the demo shortly, and one of the things I'm going to show you is like test files and CMS files. And it's nice to be able to distinguish between the two when you're looking at historical data. And this whole product is supported by a project, and that is a group of T MSIS experts. We help states leverage Imersis to improve data quality scores. We know that CMS analyzes those scores. We know that scores are important to you, and we know that you want your scores to be the best they possibly can be, and our experts support you in that. How does it work? I told you what it is. So how does it work? There's 4 very basic steps: ingest, process, explore, and remediate. So to ingest, you as a state upload your production or your test T MSIS data files into our cloud on your schedule. You can upload it anytime you want to do it. Then we process the file, and we process it and score that file exactly the same way CMS does. And within 24 hours, we have your file to you. That's our own personal SLA that we've created for ourselves. And I don't think we've missed any. It's possible that we could, but we are committed to a 24-hour turnaround. Then you explore your data using our dashboard, and you use the dashboard to see how your score was computed. And part of exploring that data is getting right down to the micro level of your data. And it's so impressive that you can do that within 24 hours. Once you've explored, you can remediate the issues. So identify the source of the issue, make changes where necessary, test the changes, and fix the problem, all before submitting your data to CMS. I like to think of this as you're submitting your data to Imersis. You get to do cleanup and do all of that if you would like to before you send your data file to CMS. And who doesn't love that, right? Okay, so where does it work? It really does work in every phase of the Medicaid system life cycle. In the 20 some odd years I've been in this Medicaid industry, I have been in operations change control, or DDI, every single day of it. And those of you on this call are too. So Imersis was originally developed to process those monthly CMS submissions before they go to CMS. This one use case has grown into many different use cases, really without changing the functionality of the tool. So in the operations phase, you can submit your CMS submissions to us. You can also do reporting analytics. I'm going to tell you about some reporting that New Jersey wanted to do shortly, and some special measures that we developed for them. But you can do reporting analytics on using the measures that are in the system today. We all know systems change, Medicaid programs change. I am sure those of you who are joining from a state Medicaid program can tell me you have change control going all the time. It's just the nature of it. You can test your system modifications using Imersis before you make those changes in your operations or production system. We have a client who told us a couple of months ago, he literally said this to us: nothing goes into production until it's tested in Imersis first. It's a very simple process. You just generate your T MSIS files. For your test files, you do not have to send all 8 files to us. You can send us just the files you want to test, and then we can backfill with files you sent previously. So you generate the file you want to test, send it to us, we backfill it, and within 24 hours, you know if the changes you've made into your lower environments, if it works, or if you need to go back to the drawing board. And that happens. Sometimes it's very successful. The changes make your T MSIS data look good, and you can take it to your production environment. And sometimes the change isn't what a client expected. But the beauty of that is you didn't push anything to production that wasn't working. And something that's very important to state Medicaid right now, and that's design development and implementation, because of the transition from MMIS monolithic systems to modular MES systems. You can use Imersis to determine the health of your Medicaid system before your modules go live and before requesting CMS certification. CMS has been very, very clear about their expectations for keeping your T MSIS scores stable through the transition to modularity. They've put out many publications and letters to Medicaid directors. This tool can enable you to test so that you have confidence that your modules are ready to go live. It gives you confidence in regression testing that your module didn't break something else. And it gives you confidence that when you request CMS certification, that your data is in good shape before you send it off to CMS to take a look at. So I've told you what it is. It's very basic. It's a SaaS product that enables you to, that digests your T MSIS data. It works very easily. Four steps. And where does it work? It works throughout your Medicaid system. Okay. You've heard what I've said about the system and how it works. And now I want to tell you how it worked in New Jersey, and then Cherry is going to tell us all about the West Virginia experience. So for New Jersey was an early Imersis client. We did a pilot with New Jersey. We did a pilot extension. In fact, when I joined this team, we were in late in 2023 with the pilot extension ended, and now they're a full client, and we're in operations mode every day with them. They were the client that requested some custom measures, and we're happy to do that for any client. They wanted to look at some crossover encounter analytics. We worked with New Jersey to develop custom measures for them, and then we pushed those measures out to all states. All of the environments are exactly the same. I'm going to tell you about some nuances that are a little bit different shortly, but it's one system, and we purposely keep it the same. New Jersey uses Imersis to test system changes all the time. As I mentioned earlier, they're one of our clients who tests changes to their systems to their system in a lower environment before pushing those changes to production. If you've ever had a change that negatively impacted your MMIS, you know the beauty of having that confidence before you push a change out. Through all of their testing and all the changes that they've made, they have become blue. They have a blue status, and they're 100% in all three of the CMS OBA criterion in critical, high, and expenditures. Just a few days ago, I got an email from them saying we're still blue in all three areas. And we share that excitement and we celebrate with them because that's no small feat. Because they've been able to do that, both through using Imersis and through their very skilled and very talented team members, they've recently been asked by CMS to share their T MSIS Data success with one of their sister states. And that is impressive. It's nice that, you know, the road they've traveled can be passed along to someone else, and another state can benefit from that. And finally, in the not too distant future, they'll be testing data in the T MSIS file format 4.x format in Imersis. As you know, CMS has a deadline for states to be compliant with that 4.x format by, I think it's September 2025. We're going to talk about when we're ready for you to test after the demo. And New Jersey will be one of the states that's using Imersis to test that file format. I'm going to go to the next slide, and I'm going to mute myself, and I'm going to say, welcome, Cherry, and you have the floor.
Excellent. Thank you for letting me join. So this is Cherry Whittlesberger. I work for Gainwell Technologies, and we have the Imersis tool in support of our customer, the West Virginia Bureau of Medicaid and Medicaid Services. We implemented Imersis in 2023. It was a 90-day implementation. We began using the tool in August of 2023, and we moved from red all the way up to blue status in 2 cycles. So in 2 months worth of files, we were back to blue status. We had experienced before Imersis a lot of inconsistency in terms of the scores that we were able to achieve for the customer. And we bounced often between blue, red, back to yellow, back to red. So it was very hard to predict the impact of the changes that were coming from CMS on our data. Since implementing Imersis, we've been able to submit any changes that we have prior to submitting our production files. So we do this regularly. We often send multiple test files through Imersis before submitting our production file each month. And it allows us to validate the things that we are doing to improve the data quality. We have been able to achieve 5 out of 6 months in the blue-green status since using the tool. We only had 1 month that we went to yellow, and it was not related to an Imersis issue. It was something internal that was not in place in time for the data run that happened in production. We are also working with our customer to test some of their big changes going forward, including implementation of changes in the pharmacy program, the addition of additional managed care organizations. We will run all of our data through Imersis to validate and make sure that the impact of those big change orders don't adversely affect the T MSIS data. We're also going to be testing the next version, the 4. Changes for CMS file format. We'll begin that later this year and into 2025. There are new file formats that are part of that new version. So we're going to use that to test those as well as the changes to the existing file formats. But we've been very happy with both the way the implementation went, the way that Imersis has been able to get parity with the CMS measures and stay month over month in sync with all of the CMS releases. And the response time and the support that we get to testing our files has been great. They're talking with us each month about what we're planning to do. They're there when we're doing the testing. They get responses back to us right away. They're able to help us dig into our data if we've got specific questions for some of the newer measures. So it's just been very helpful and provided good results. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Cherry. I really appreciate that. It is always nice to hear the client's voice. And I will say that both of these states have shaped our system. I mean, has shaped the Imersis as a tool because we get such good feedback, and we take that feedback and improve the product, because ultimately it's the end users that benefit the most from it. It's the ones who are in it probably the most. So we want it to be what they want it to be. Let me go on to the next slide. So I just want to recap a little bit here in terms of what Imersis has done for just these two states that we were just talking about. As Cherry said, in terms of accelerating data quality progress, West Virginia went from red to a blue-green status on that OBA map after, like Cherry said, two cycles or 8 weeks of using Imersis, and we all celebrated. And New Jersey resolved close to the yearly average of data quality issues in half the time using Imersis. And of course, in both of these examples, both states have great teams that are researching issues as they use the tool. And as we mentioned, the tool really does avoid costly change requests. New Jersey and West Virginia both have seamlessly integrated Imersis into their existing data quality improvement processes. If we were in their live systems today, you really would see more test submissions than CMS submissions, because you only have one CMS submission a month and multiple test submissions. But I like to think, and I think they think, that using Imersis really has enhanced their testing processes, and we love being a part of that. We're going into the demo, and I want to just, I've got to switch screens, obviously, so I want to ask Erin if there's any questions we need to address while I'm making the transition.
I haven't seen any come in, Michelle.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I need to share my screen, so just one moment. Okay, and now I am going into the tool, and I've been out of it for a minute, and we do protect your data, so I've got to get back into it, and it's very, very simple. It's just a matter of entering my authenticator code from my cell phone. So just like in your MMIS systems, if you are step away and you're not in your system, then that data protection kicks in and you're logged out. Very simple process to log back in. And when you log back in, you go back to the screen you were last in, and that was the screen I was last in. But I want to start here. This is the landing page. And on this landing page, you can access all these different dashboards, 1 through 5. I'm going to walk through 1 through 4 today, but I do want to mention that the 5th one, the state file receipt and control, that's just a dashboard that tracks your file from submission to until the time it's essentially in the product. We always tell clients when we've received their files, and we tell them when the files are available, and they can see them, but we do, if I'm sending a file to someone, I like the confirmation of knowing, hey, someone on that end told me that they received it and they're processing. And I think our clients like that. So I want to start here in submission history. A couple of things I want you to note. As we move through the system, this left bar is always the area for filtering. Depending upon which dashboard we're in, it may look a little differently, but it's always going to be your filtering area. For the submission history, you can filter on CMS or test, and that correlates with this table at the bottom. I mentioned earlier that we receive test files and CMS files, and maybe you only want to see your CMS submissions for whatever you're in the system for. So you could just select CMS and apply. and then only your CMS submissions are there. And it works the same way for test. If I choose test, I'm only going to see the two test files that are in this demo. For purposes of today, I want to have all of my files in there. I want to talk a little bit about the submission IDs and what you're seeing here in this table. The submission IDs, the first part of this is always going to be the job date, and then whether this is a test or a CMS file, and then the reporting period. And all of that is over here in this table. When we go through some of the other dashboards, you're really only going to see this submission ID. So just always remember that the reporting period, that's the last digits in the submission ID. What do we really want to know? Are we in status or are we out of status? Are we meeting the OBA target range? So you do see this in the table as well. If we ask all of our clients how they use this tool, they'd all probably say something different, because we're in our TA sessions every month. It always pops out to me how differently even people within the same project use the tool. I want to show you, I want to drill down a little bit, and I want to go into this submission on 9/1. I'm going to hover right here. So I want you to see that this is the reporting period for August 2023. Okay, what am I seeing here? I'm seeing in bright red letters to the right that does not meet OBA targets. We want to meet OBA targets, right? We want to be in range. Then we have a summary table of the 3 criterion, the critical, expenditures, and high. You see the score for each, the target range, whether you're in status, what your status is, whether you're in range or out of range. The count measure in target range. So this is how many measures were in target range. And then to the right is the number of measures that were in that particular criterion. So using critical as an example, there were 150 measures in range and 154 total measures. Sometimes people want to look at this in a little different way. So you could scroll down and link to the file and category scores by file type. So if you just, if you submitted an eligibility file, you might just want to go in and select eligibility here. Or you could go in through your OBA categories, or even both, OBA category by file type. I want to show you, I want to drill down because you really can do a deep dive here. And I want to go into my high criterion. So just think I'm going deeper and deeper into this data. You get a recap here of what we just saw on the other page, that your file score here is 92 and your target range to the right is greater than or equal to 99. The total passing count was 382 and the total count was 416. Above that is a pie chart of that exact thing. We do round up, so 91.83 is the score, rounding up to 92. So you see what your score is, and now of course you want to see, why am I out of range? Before we look at why you're out of range, I want to show you a little bit more about this page. I specifically want to scroll to the bottom, closer to the bottom here. And you can see here we provide a list of all the measures that meet that high criterion, that are in the high criterion. Each one of these columns you can sort and filter on, you can sort by. And what I want to point out here is the count measure status, because that's what's driving these numbers. As you know, CMS excludes certain measures from your score. And we exclude those same measures. So let me just show you that. I'm just going to filter on exclude. And when I filter on exclude, all of these measures are excluded from the score. And they're excluded from the score for various reasons. These I know are excluded because these were DQ issues at one time that have been closed. And these measures no longer calculate into the score. And that is a handy thing to have, because I know We live and die by being in range or out of range, and you don't want something being calculated into your score in Imersis that's not being calculated into your score in the CMS dashboard. A couple more things I want to point out here. To your right of the current measure status, you see this measure history, and you see reds and a gray. These are the last 6 submissions of last 6 file submissions. Those red X's mean that these were CMS files. These were actually files that eventually did go to CMS. The one that's grayed out, this means this was a test file. So I know on that six submission, that was a test. What I really want to see, if I am out of range, what I want to see is I want to see those measures that are out of range. Oh, I got to get this out of here to see it though. Okay, now I have filtered on out of range. So that brings, I'm trying to get you guys a better view, just one second. So that brings all of my out of range measures to the top. And I want to see, I know by looking at this, these are my problem measures. These are what's causing my data quality issues. And I want to do a deeper dive into this. I specifically today want to look at MS 241414. I could scroll down through here and find that, but I'm a little bit lazy. So I'm just going to filter on, the actual measure. Oops, 24, that should give it to us. So, yep, I just did MIS 24 and it's 1414. So I want to drill down into this a little bit more. I'm out of range. I have exactly the measures that are causing me to be out of range. Now I want to get more detail about it because I want to fix this. What is this measure? This measure is missing servicing provider MPI number. Out of range, my measure value is 0.340, and I need to have this measure within this target range of 0.3. If I scroll on down, I can see the actual steps that are used to calculate this measure. Along with each of these steps, you can see a record count of the number of records that fall within this step. I am curious about the exact problem that's causing me to be out of range, and I can view my errant records. What is an errant record? I like to think of them as the problem children. Those are the exact records that is causing your data quality to be out of range. Not only that, but in this step, you see you have 13,443 records causing this problem. I'm going to do a deeper dive and I'm going to view errant records. And when I do that, I'm literally taken to the exact problem. Again, this is mass data. So in this example, the sample errant records to my left in this data column is the original ICN. So these are the ICNs of the claims where the problem occurs. If I look at the column selections, these titles coordinate with the columns below. So I have the ICN original, the ICN adjusted, the type of claim, adjustment indicator, line adjustment indicator, line number original, line number adjusted. Okay, so I could look at all of this data, 13,000 records. Here, I could scroll down, scroll through, and just weave my way through this. And I used to do that, to be honest with you, but I could also download this. So it's a very simple process to download. I export to a CSV, and I hope because I'm sharing, it doesn't slow down. So it just happens just that quickly. What I do once I've downloaded to a CSV, I then save it as an Excel spreadsheet because you can sort and filter. So as you can see, these columns are exactly what I mentioned earlier. I know nothing about this data. I know nothing about the project that this data came from that is now masked. But I know from just a few clicks and from looking at this by using the type of claim and the adjustment indicator that This particular problem is being caused by fee-for-service claims and only by original claims. There are few replacement or resubmissions of claims. We used to call them adjustment voids. I don't know if that's what you guys call them now or not. But me being a total outsider, within a few clicks and just a few seconds can see, one, what the ICNs are, and that these are fee-for-service claims. And if I'm Cherry, if I am the amazing data analyst that worked on that West Virginia project, I have what I need to help resolve this issue in just a few minutes. I think that is the beauty of this product, and that is, it's great to know you have a problem, but how do I resolve it? And if we can tell you within just a few clicks what the problem is, that leads you to quicker resolution. Okay, I want to back up a little bit and I want to pretend I'm Cherry. Now I'd like to be Cherry because she has some pretty cool dogs. So Cherry told me in a meeting last week, we were talking about like what you'd like to see in the tool in terms of how different users use it. Cherry said, what I want to see if I'm in range or out of range. And that's what I'm going to first. And she said, not only am I going to that first, I'm going to critical first. So if I'm Cherry, I'm going to this OBA dashboard and I am looking at my summary table. And I want to say, and I want to make it very, very clear, West Virginia is not out of range. That is just in this demo. This is not West Virginia data. This is just for purposes of this webinar. But if I was Cherry and pretending I am, I'm going to critical, I'm out of range, and I want to see very quickly what's causing my problems. I've already explained all these. These tables are exactly the same we talked about before. I'm Cherry, remember, so I am going to filter here on out of range. And what I see is there are 4 measures that's causing me as a state to be out of range. And if I were state and I were still working in that capacity in state Medicaid, I would be pretty discouraged that only 4 measures had caused me to be out of range. Because Cherry, I assume, has to report this to other people on the team, to the broader audience. That's probably where she's going to stop. But they have other team members that would come in and do a deeper dive on this. And what they would be looking at, and I'm going to show you it in a little different way in a minute, probably one of the data analysts would come in and click on specifications, just like we did before. And we would see, one, it tells you what the name is. This is Rule 7540. And last summer, we were all living, breathing, eating Rule 7540 because we had a lot of clients that this rule was causing problems for. And there's a lot of words here about eligibility, but essentially this is an eligibility discrepancy between 2 sources. We worked on this a long time with all of our clients. Using this example, I want to show you, if I scroll down here to the specifications and look at the errant records, I have over 1 million errant records. So this tells me, if this was a true scenario, I have 1 million records in my MMIS that are causing me to be out of range. But what are those records? Well, you can get those records simply with just a few clicks. I'm going to be straight up with you. If you have 1 million sample errant records, you need to contact me as your client engagement lead because we need to pull those for you from the back end. And we have done that for clients. It's just the way to go with it. And we're always happy to do that. But what's important here is that you see to the left-hand side, the exact MSIS IDs that's fallen within this category of this eligibility discrepancy. And you can take this download and you can do a query in your system and you can get to these exact records very quickly. You don't have to wait a long time. You don't have to guess. You don't have to try to make system changes or manipulate member records and just hope that you're getting the right records. You have them. You have the exact records. Again, I think that's really the beauty of this. I want to go on now and show you some, I'm not going as fast as I was when I was practicing. So I'm going to speed it up a little bit. I want to show you a different way to use this tool. And I am pretending here that I am a data analyst and I want to use the measure list dashboard. And as a user, this is the dashboard I use the most, to be honest with you. It kind of looks and feels the same that you saw before, but I want to go back to this. Looks and feels the same as we saw before. Here you see, these are all my dashboards I can quickly get to. Those of you on the call may know that monthly states get their DQ reports, and these are just reports that CMS generates after they've processed your CMS T MSIS file. So states download those and send those reports to us, and then we ingest those reports into your production file. So West Virginia sends us their reports and we ingest those into the West Virginia system. New Jersey sends us their DQ reports and we ingest those into the New Jersey system. Obviously, everybody's reports are specific to them, but we want to pull the data from those reports into the tool. One thing we want to pull into is the DQ issue number. And that's because our clients have told us, we don't do our work by measure ID and we don't do our work by measure name. We use the DQ issue number. So we recently, this year, modified the system to pull in the DQ issue number. So as a data analyst, I want to research DQ 16. So I just search, I have the DQ issue number, I'm out of range, I can quickly go to the specifications. And this is a problem with the provider IDs. I think that Medicaid systems live and die by provider enrollment. If your provider enrollment is not healthy, it is just a snowball that goes downhill and things happen within your MMIS system. Claims denied, providers don't get paid, the governor gets called. I mean, it can be a nightmare. So this measure that is out of range is because you've got a bunch of issues with the provider license end date. So the provider license end date is missing. Again, we show you the measure value, we show you the file type, where you should be, and that's under 0.02. Here we're significantly above that. And I'm going to go down into the specifications. And I see I have 33,000 providers or 33,000 instances where there's no provider end date. I'm going to view my sample errant records. I have, if I don't go any further, I can see right here that these are the provider IDs, submitting state provider IDs that do not have an end date. I can, and with 33,000 records, I would download a CSV, and I've already done that. And since I'm running out of time, I'm just going to go directly to that. This is the Excel that I created from the CSV. So if I'm the data analyst working with Cherry, I can pull this and look at the exact provider numbers, and we can start making, do we have a system modification issue here? Is our system not working right? Do we have providers that need some provider education? What's going on here? So it's very quick and very easy, and it just takes all the guesswork out of it. And I love that part of it. Now I want to show you one more thing. We are going to go back to the slides, but I want to show you one more way that our clients really use this tool, and that is to compare submissions. There's a couple of different instances, well, many different instances where you would want to compare submissions. For purposes of what I'm doing now, I am thinking that I'm a client, I'm a data analyst, and we were out of range on a submission, and we've made some system modifications in a lower environment. We tested those, and now we've submitted a new file, and I want to see, did my changes work? Did my test hold up to what I had originally seen in it? So I'm going to start comparing a few things. For purposes of today, I'm going to compare this test file from 8/15, and I'm going to compare it to my submission on 9/1 and I'm going to apply these filters. And what has happened here is all of these tables have updated to compare my scores across those two submissions. And what I want to point out a couple of things. Here, submission A is your test range, system B are your test submissions, range B is your CMS submission. So through my testing, I was able to improve. This tells me I'm still out of target range, but I have improved. I've gone from 37 to 34 here. So I've, 37 measures were out of range and now I only have 34. Same for my expenditures. I had 9 measures that were out of range and now I only have 8. Critical stayed the same. But it's just that easy to look at your test values and compare them to your CMS values, or to compare your CMS values over time. You could choose absolutely any submission. You can come down here to the bottom and look and get exactly what has changed. There's a number of ways to do that. As you've seen before, you can filter on these columns. I like to download to the CSV and then save that as an Excel. And then I get this. I have my, again, my status for A and my status B. And I can sort and filter. And what I usually do is filter on in range in one column and then look at the changes. And then after I've done that, I highlight those that have changed. And so very, very quickly, let me filter this 1 second. Very, very quickly, I can filter on those items by color, and I can see these are the measures that went from out of range to in range. So I know everything else I need to work on. But our clients have told us time and time again how much that enhances their testing process. I want to tell you another way to use this for those of you who have modularity on your mind. You could use this very functionality to test your modules and see what your modules are going to do to your T MSIS data before they go live. So we have your legacy data because you've been using Imersis, right? So you just pull your T MSIS data from your module. You can do all your data, or you can send us part of your data and we can backfill. Once we process the data from your module, you can compare that module submission to a legacy submission and determine, is my module working the way it should? Am I ready to take this to a go live status? And am I ready for CMS to see the shape that my module is in? I think that is, if I were still working on that pharmacy module, this would be my best friend, because I would want to fix every single thing I could before CMS saw my data, before I went into a production environment, and before I encountered downstream problems. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to go back to the slides, and I'm going to go back to Erin while I'm making this transition and see if any questions we need to address at this point, Erin.
No questions yet, Michelle.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going back to the slides. I want to tell you what's coming. We hinted about it earlier. We are working on the file layout 4.x. I believe state's deadline is September 2025. By September 2024, Imersis will be able to ingest TMSIS files in that format. What does that mean for you? That means a full year before you have to be compliant, you can test in Imersis, and you can be sure that when you send your first file in 4.0 format to CMS, that's working as designed. Another thing we're doing in connection with that file layout change is we're creating a financial transaction dashboard. And so this dashboard will have high-level counts of claims and frequency counts. Someone in our New Jersey our New Jersey client has been asking us for frequency counts for a little while now. So this is our first step in getting those frequency counts. So the frequency counts will be for data elements with valid values, including invalid and missing values. That's phase one of that type of frequency count that we're just going to build on. The big story here, though, is you can test your file format changes early. We did the same thing when they changed to, I think it was 3.0. I think West Virginia was the first state to test that format, and they did it incrementally, just testing to see if like if the data elements if those were right, then if the data element, another submission was the data right. So it's pretty cool the way they did that. Okay, I want to talk about the client support, and I didn't mean to really make this last, but I wanted you to see the tool first because I know you probably are saying that is a learning curve. And yes, it's a learning curve. I'm sure Cherry would say everybody on West Virginia had a learning curve. And I'm going to tell you, Michelle Listug wants to have learning curves every single day of her life because that's how we grow, right? I am the client engagement lead, and I am your first line of support for this tool. That doesn't mean I have all the answers. It means you contact me, and then it becomes my problem. Everyone who knows me on this call will say, I say all the time, my number one priority is responding to our clients. It almost does not matter what else I'm doing. If I get an email from a client or a phone call from a client, that's my number one priority. And that is, sometimes I have the answer. I know what the answer is. Sometimes I need to go to SMEs like Erin. Sometimes I need to go to our testing manager, Svetlana. I need to ask them questions. But my first response is going to be, I don't know the answer, but I will get back with you. And my goal is to get back timely and accurately. Those T MSIS experts are so very cool and great. And I wish I knew what was in their brain, and they respond to me very quickly. Another thing that they do is they review and test every single submission that comes into Imersis. It does not matter what state it is. It does not matter if it's a test file or it is a CMS file. We test every one of them, and that is such value add. And our T MSIS experts join monthly technical assistance sessions. We have monthly technical assistance sessions with all of our clients. These are not cookie cutter sessions. They're specific to that client. Some clients want to meet a couple of times a month. Some clients want to meet once a month. But that is not the beginning and end of our support. We are available every single day. Last year, someone was at MESC and they were having a problem accessing Imersis, and they called me. And I'm telling you, they were worried, and I was worried for them. We got it resolved. It wasn't an Imersis issue. It was something to do with the location they were actually in. We had somebody at the conference, of course, so we were able to connect. And everybody on this team feels that way. It's a priority for us. Another source of the client support is we do have a help desk that's managed by Dan. We're available for questions, to report issues, to make recommendations, to let us know you're sending a test file. And we have a knowledge base on Confluence that has an end user manual that's really snazzy. And we're adding videos to that in the next few weeks. Okay, I want to say, if you want to continue the Imersis discussion, call me or email me. It can be literally about anything. You can tell us about your data quality journey. Let us know where you've been, where you're going, and how we see Imersis could help, or interpretations that we may have. If you want to talk about the role of Imersis in modularity and CMS certification, definitely call me, because that's one of my favorite topics right now. If you want to be a partner with Mathematica and New Wave, call me for that. If you want to know what guidance CMS has issued about T MSIS and the role that it plays in certification and modularity, I will get you those articles. I would be more than happy to do that. And while we have 3 minutes left, I want to say there are multiple ways to get this tool. Excitement, we are on Carosoft. We had a press release that went out Monday. We've been on Carosoft for several weeks. If you have the ability to procure this tool and don't have to go through an RFP process, you can get us through Caresoft, and it's very simple. You can go through an RFP or you can partner with us. If you're a vendor and you're working on an RFP and you think this tool could strengthen your RFP and you want to partner with us, we'd love to partner with you every day, all day long. I am almost out of voice, and I think that is our last slide. We've got 3 minutes left, so let me see if anybody has a question for me. We can take you off of mute. I think Chris can take the attendees off of mute, or you can submit your question via the chat. I know I've thrown a lot at you today, and I want to say there's a lot more functionality there. We just hit the highlights, the areas that we thought would be the most helpful to share with you today. There is a lot more to unpack. I want to see if anybody on the panel has anything they'd like to add too. So we have 2 minutes. Okay, we have a quiet group, and that's okay. I want to say thank you for joining. I've taken a quick purview of the attendees, and I see we have an impressive group of people here today, people who know more about modularity and certification in T MSIS than I do, or that I ever will. That I ever will know. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to the panelists, and thank you to Chris for being our moderator today. You guys have a great day.